What is up, Buffalo Bills fans? This is Ray DeLucci with the Stray Buffalo podcast. It's been a minute. I am back. I am getting into the swing of things as we approach the start of the training camp started, but preseason coming up, the Hard Knock show I'd like to cover. A lot of things going on in the Buffalo Bills atmosphere. And as we look to this year, I obviously have a lot of confidence. The Bills are amazing. Josh Allen is my GOAT, and so much to look forward to this year. I wanted to kind of break down why I think the Buffalo Bills have a very excellent chance to make it back to the AFC Championship game and to make it to the Super Bowl this year. Before I begin that breakdown, I do want to say to the haters, leave me alone. This is, being a Bills fan is so much fun because we get to tell people time and time again, the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to go there. And then obviously they don't. But that being said, I know there will be pushback on this, maybe from people in the Bills community, maybe from people outside of it. I truly think this year is our best shot at making the Super Bowl. Could be wrong, could not even make the playoffs. I am confident that this season is going to feel like the 13-second season. A season where the Bills are clicking, where they're dominant, where they're able to go into games as the favorites and come out on top. This last season felt like that. I feel like 90%, but there were some gaps here and there, and you can see where things were kind of breaking. I feel that McDermott and Bean have built a team that is extremely durable, extremely battle-tested, young, talented, and ready to go for this season. I think for myself, the Bills being favored in every game and being one of the shortest odds for Super Bowl contenders is a huge reason as to why I'm very bullish on this year. I also think Josh Allen is in his prime. We have entered prime Josh Allen years, and I think that his dedication to the team, to the game, his focus, his grit, his determination, and his playmaking ability are just going to be on full display this year. Having weapons on the offense, having a defense backing him up, James Cook in the run game, I think it's going to be a year that is going to be to remember. Also, I also do think it matters that this will be the last game played at Highmark in the Ralph, however long you've been a Bills fan. For me, it was Ralph growing up, I know. It goes back quite some ways, but I think that this season means a lot to the Buffalo Bills organization, and I think it means a lot to McDermott and Bean. The idea, and let's start there. I think coaching is important. A lot of people, when the Bills got taken out by the Chiefs this last season, called for McDermott to be fired for a change-up at coach, maybe a change-up at GM, and I could not be farther away from that idea. I think Sean McDermott is an excellent coach. I think a lot is put on his shoulders, and I think some of the criticism is rightfully given to him. 13 seconds is a very sore topic that is still talked about in Buffalo to this day, and it's still used in a media apparatus towards us. But I think Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have created a winning culture in Buffalo that, if you look around the league, other teams strive for. The Steelers, just like banking on Aaron Rodgers, the Jets not understanding what to do, the Dolphins in disarray. The Buffalo Bills have become a respected and highly competitive football organization. And it's unfortunate that the one team that keeps us out of the playoffs happens, to have probably will go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And it pains me to say that because I can't stand the Chiefs. But this idea that it's lost, I feel like, to the general NFL fan base and to some Bills fans as to how important it is to create a culture and an organization that focuses on winning, that focuses on outcomes, and that focuses on doing their best. And I know the Bills have not gone to Super Bowl with McDermott under the helm. But for him to come in and switch the culture, a culture that failed for 17 years, a culture where growing up I didn't see our team go to the playoffs, for him to go in and take us to that next level, I think is something we take for granted because of how much success we've seen. The Bills are like one of the, I think it's number 2 or 3 top most winning teams in the last few years. Like they are a successful team that wins football games. We've had bad matchups in the playoffs. We've had injuries. We've had stuff not go our way. But I do think Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have a vision. They have a goal. And I think you saw it in this draft. I think you've seen it in the free agent signings. And I think it's something that is going to be super important. And this gets to my point for stability. Stability for the Bills is what I think makes them such a big contender year after year. To have Josh in the pocket, to have a running group now, to have an excellent O-line, to have great defensive personnel that only seems to be getting stronger. The stability our organization have is what others strive for, and I think Sean McDermott is a key focal point in that, and I think Brandon Beane is a key focal point in that. So many NFL teams look for stability, and we offer that. So to that end, I think it's a major, major positive for our team going into this next season. I think also that Josh Allen last season was nuts. I mean, his turnovers were so far down that you didn't even hear people talk. And this was such a good barometer last year. If I was listening to a pundit on TV, and this is how I gauged how much they knew about Bills football. If I was listening to a pundit on TV and I heard them complain about Josh Allen's turnovers, it just told me that A, they didn't know what they were talking about, and B, they hadn't actually paid attention to the season we were in, because Josh had such a great step forward on his turnover management. MVP season, what he did with the lack of personnel, and again, we'll go back to the disrespect. Everyone counted the Bills out of the playoffs last year. The fact that he had an MVP season with the core group that he had, loved those guys to death. They did not compare to other teams regarding how many MVPs they had, elite talent on paper, but they stepped up and played for Josh and for Sean, and that's something to be commended. If we do that again this year, I think it's ours. I think we contend with anyone. And there's only a few teams last year we couldn't contend with. I do think, obviously, the Chiefs, and then obviously the Eagles, I think, would have been tough in the Super Bowl. But you look to the draft. Our first pick, cornerback, Maxwell Hairston. He did have an injury in minicamp. A little worried about that. It doesn't seem to be anything crazy. Super speedy guy, great addition, can work with Benford, ball hawk, someone that can go down the field, close distances when maybe a receiver burns you. I think he's an excellent pick. We have the defensive tackle, Sanders, the defensive end, Jackson, and then the big defensive tackle, Deion Walker. I mean, all great additions to the defense. And obviously, a bunch of Jackson Hawes' tight end, I think, is going to be someone that's underlooked, but will be good. And our draft was great. I mean, PFF gave us, Pro Football Focus gave us an A-. And general draft grades gave us around an A to a B+. So if you look at the roster, you got Josh Allen, you have James Cook reporting to camp. I do think, let's talk on James Cook for a second. James Cook is a talented back, and anyone that acts like we would be better off or we would not be, anyone who acts like if James Cook walked away tomorrow that we'd be the same team is lying to themselves. He's not a Josh Allen level impact player, but his ability to run and be a wide receiver threat opens up our offense. We needed for years a run game so that we could play action, so that we can open up the receivers into the deep ball, so that we can have things work for Josh, give him some time in the pocket. In how many years as a fan base do we say, hey, we need a running back that's solid? Hey, we need a running back that can go. And now that James Cook is having contractual disputes, it seems like half the fan base thinks we don't need him, and that basically we'd be fine without him when he literally changed our offense last year. I do think Ray Davis is a stud. I think he's going to blossom into an incredible player. And I do think if the Bills cannot match what James Cook wants after this season, I think we'll be fine with Ray Davis. But I do think he needs another year. And Ty Johnson is a versatile back. He's not a number one, but he's an incredibly talented back that we have. So having those three this year, I think it's going to be great for Josh. Kincaid and Jackson Hawes, it's going to be awesome. The defensive line, it's good, Rousseau, Joey Bosa, if he can stay healthy. I am worried. I do have my concerns on Bosa. All of those guys, the secondary, Benford, back there is going to be great. Our offensive line is incredible. Keon putting on extra muscle, looking like an absolute tank, burning people in practice. I know that a lot of sites will go and, talk about, you could see a lot of sites talk about Keon's progression in the offseason. And some outsiders I saw comments, oh, you guys are just Bills fans, you're just hyping him up. No, this dude looks different. He looks more dynamic. He looks stronger. He looks faster. He's more imposing. I think Keon Coleman is going to have a breakout year. The work he's done in the offseason shows already, and I think we're going to see that impact in the season. He had some hit or misses. I'm sold on Keon. I think he's going to be a great player. There's some in the fan base that don't agree or are still very wary on him. I think just seeing his dedication in the offseason physically shows me that he's bought into McDermott, he's bought into Bean, and he's going to be a threat this year. Now I look at some key weaknesses. So if you look at, the younger secondary for the Bills, Hairston, the other people in our defense, a little bit untested. DeMar tested. He's good, not great. I think that what's going to be really impactful this year is ensuring that our defense is good to go, that our secondary is tight, Their defensive line rotates in and creates pressure. And then I also think that, having their wide receiver core be consistent. I think Keon's going to have a good year. I'm very excited to see Josh Palmer do well. Khalil Shakir, obviously. But they have to be consistent. Kincaid kind of had an off year. He kind of blew the catch at the end of the last Chiefs game. This is a big step-up year for a lot of people. I think for the defense, this is a big, prove-it year for younger talent and for talent that's been there. But I think for the offense, this is a big step-up year for those guys that are in their second and third year. Go out there and be the weapon. Be the person we drafted you for, and prove to the Bills organization why you belong. Some people I liked a lot. I'm looking at Hairston in training camp. I'm looking at Coleman. I'm looking at Khalil Shakir. But yeah, I think this is our best year for a number of reasons. I think Josh is in his prime. I think the stability of our organization, another year in a stable culture, in a stable mindset, keeps the program going. I think we have a lot of talent on offense. Wide receiver-wise, running back room is deep. Offensive line is great. And defensively, I think I'm bullish that we're going to have a much better defense this year. I think our secondary has been addressed. I think the D-line's been addressed in some ways. And I think the draft was very intentional. It might take until the middle of the year to fully see the defense running on all cylinders, but that's fine because Josh can just kind of carry us the way we need to get there. What I find interesting is the Hard Knocks debut. That's going to be interesting. I wonder what they're going to cover. If they're going to cover, the James Cook contractual dispute. I wonder what minicamp storylines. I'm sure they'll throw in Josh's wedding or something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. But it'll be good to see. I love the fact that the Buffalo Bills are getting national media attention like this. I know it might be a distraction. I know some fans might not be hot on it, but I am. I think the more Bills content, the better. I want to see how – I hope to see – if my assumption that the culture, the Buffalo Bills organization is as good as I think it is, Hard Knocks will show that. And I also do think that you can use Hard Knocks to kind of tell what this year is going to be like for the Bills. So I'm very excited to see it. I'm very excited to kind of dig in and, see what McDermott and Josh and all of them are working on this offseason. And it's going to be a fun time. But those are my main reasons why I think the Bills are going to be Super Bowl contenders yet again. I don't really see many weaknesses on our team besides youth and players needing to step up. I think we have a very strong core. And I think that our coaching staff knows what it needs to do to get us to that next level. There's a great consistency in having, Joe Brady come back and having McDermott and being there. And I can't stress that enough. This organization being consistent, being able to build on itself year after year, I think it's going to be a winning combination. And it's the last year in Highmark. It's the last year at the Ralph. What a way to end an era for that stadium and for that city. To know how much the Buffalo Bills football franchise means to Buffalo, if we could put a banner in the Raptors to close out the Ralph, I think it absolves the much, much cursed past of the Buffalo Bills. And it's truly exciting, and I'm here for it. I hope it's a season to remember. I'm very excited to cover it. Now, I wanted to briefly just touch on the worry that some fans, so I'm doing this I'm uploading more on YouTube. I have the podcast, but some fans, I share a lot of off the cuff videos on TikTok on the Bills. And a lot of Bills fans have the sentiment that, this might, it's just going to be another year where we fail. And it might as well be. But I'll say this. Being a Bills fan is one of the greatest joys in my life. It is something that I love so much. I am already itching for football to be back so I can watch the Buffalo Bills. I miss the anxiety of it all. I miss the connection of it all. And I just miss the Bills Mafia too. If you don't know, the Stray Buffalo is named this because I no longer live in Buffalo. I live outside of Chicago. I moved here for work. I've lived outside of Buffalo for quite some time now, but I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York. I've been a diehard Bills fan. My first game ever was actually I remember watching with my grandfather against the Carolina Panthers, maybe in 04, 03. I'd have to look it up. And ever since then, the J.P. Lossman years, the Trent Edwards years, the E.J. Manuel years, the list goes on. I love this team. I love this sport, and I love the Bills Mafia itself. And I love the Bills Mafia because it's such a cool fan base to be a part of. I I started this TikTok at the end of last year. I was like, all right, I have experience podcasting in other industries, but I wanted to do something for the Bills. And I started this TikTok, and it's already at 600 followers, and that might not seem like a lot, but when I tell you that I just post whatever I'm feeling about the Bills, and I get so much support just off of that, it's just crazy how loyal and how supportive our fan base is for each other. So that being said, very excited for this year, and yeah, now it's such an honor to be a part of the Bills Mafia. I'm hoping to go to a game this year. I really am. Games are expensive nowadays, and obviously flying into Buffalo. I went to the game last year against the Ravens, the AFC divisional round game. Probably one of the coolest experiences of my adult life. So getting to go to another game would be great. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun year. I think there's a lot to be looking forward to. And the world's crazy right now. The world's crazy. There's a lot going on. And to have something to look forward to every Sunday, to watch the Bills, win or lose, I liken watching the Bills to the saying they say about fishing. A bad day of fishing is better than a good day in the office, and I feel the same way about the Buffalo Bills. A bad Buffalo Bills day is better than a day where the Buffalo Bills are not playing at all. And I'm just excited for it to be back. Content you can expect this summer. I'm going to be covering the Hard Knocks episode, so look for that. I also want to do some, fun videos on just like some Buffalo Bills fandom as well. Maybe, I have a background in cooking, maybe the best tailgate food or whatnot. Had some cool ideas to go through. But yeah, I wanted to talk and pivot real quick to the Buffalo Sabres. So this is a Buffalo Bills focused podcast with some Sabres media mixed in. That's the Stray Buffalo, of course. And so, if you're a Bills fan, you're likely a Sabres fan, and so maybe you'll stick around to listen to my little rant. But I'm recording this on Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm just sitting here pretty bummed out this year for watching the Cup. And the reason why is I just want to see the Sabres make the playoffs. I'll admit that I'm much more of a diehard Bills fan than a Sabres fan. I love the Sabres. I'll watch them throughout the year. I'm way more into the Bills, but I love hockey and I love the Buffalo Sabres. And I remember when I started watching the NHL playoffs this year, I just remember being bummed. You think you'd be used to it after 14 years, but it's just like hockey is such a fun sport. And if you haven't been watching the series between Edmonton and Florida, it has had some amazing thrilling games. And you just look at the talent on the ice and how these teams work together and what they're able to do with each other and how they're able to focus on their hockey, like how they're able to play hockey at a proficient and professional manner. And then you see the Sabres, and it's like you have flashes of that, but then we just fall apart. And I think for me, the biggest thing while watching the Stanley Cup playoffs is I just want the Sabres to be competitive again. I want them to make the playoffs. And I don't have an answer. I don't know how to fix the Buffalo Sabres. I don't think anyone does, otherwise it would have happened. We wouldn't be in 14 years of a drought. But I just maybe wanted to vent for a minute or two to the fact that it's just like you have so much rich hockey lore and hockey culture in Buffalo. It's definitely a hockey city, and it's surprising to me how strong the fan base is, knowing how poorly they've done the last decade and a half almost. So I don't know. I just am really hoping this next year, as we look at off seasons, I really hope the Sabres are competitive. I'm watching the Stanley Cup Finals and just finding myself more and more frustrated with the organization because at some point you just have to make it. You just have to get into the playoffs. It's statistically so hard to do what we've done if we try our best, and yet we've done it. So looking forward to the Bills, but also in a kind of hockey sadness era right now, just due to the fact that the Sabres are not in it. And I would never expect them to be playing in a Stanley Cup final with the rebuilds they've been doing. But just to not have them competitive is so annoying. And I just wanted to share that real quick. All right. Well, I think that's everything on my end for this podcast. I just wanted to hop on and do a little why I think the Bills are going to be successful this year. And I just want to say thank you all for supporting the Stray Buffalo. If you like this video, please leave a like on YouTube and a comment. I'm going to start leaving comments. I shared on TikTok. My first Bills game that I went to was against the San Diego Chargers. It was in 2008, and the power went out. I don't know if any of you were at that game or if you remember this game. Basically, like 3 balloons hit a wire or something, and the whole power went out in the stadium. And I was there, and we stopped the game for 15 minutes, and then we kept playing. But for 3 quarters almost, they didn't televise the game. and it was against the Chargers. And I just remember, my first football game, I just remember how cool it was, but also how crazy it was that the power went out. So I would love to hear what your first Bills football game was, what it was like, and if there were any crazy stories behind it. And I'd love to maybe start having some of you on the show. So thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you in another Stray Buffalo podcast episode.